With everything going on in the world right now, it seems a little bit silly to be posting a video about a basketball documentary, but I don't know, like there's this fight between staying plugged in, staying active, staying informed, staying aware, trying to help share positive information towards good causes, and feeling this guilt when you're not doing that. But I do think you need to unplug every now and again. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take a few minutes out of my day, talk to you about something I got a lot of joy out of this summer. And hopefully you can unplug with me for a few minutes as well before we get back to the good fight. But I'm talking about The Last Dance. And there's a part of me that worries me because with the virus and with all of the unrest in the world and the murder hornets and the poison toads in Florida and the locusts in Africa and climate change and our third named storm of the year as far as Atlantic hurricane season, this very well could be the end of the world. So if that's the case, I'm going to call this one The Last Dance for the Last Dance. So right off the top, I want to mention what I plan to focus on most of the time on this channel, which is the production value, the scope, the amount of detail, the graphics, the storytelling. Jason Hare and his team were unbelievable. I mean, they took this footage that was in an NBA storage room, a camera crew that had been embedded with the 98 Bulls, and they got access like we've never seen before. And then he took all of that, and he took all of these photos, and he found all of this stock footage and other clips, news clips, other interviews. And he also got an unbelievable level of access with Michael Jordan that we will probably never see again. I mean, several meetings off camera, several sit-down interviews. It's unbelievable. I mean, he is such an iconic figure, but we've never really talked with him that much. I mean, Jordan was always solid about doing his media availabilities. You see it in the documentary. He has a pretty good relationship with the media, but he's not doing anything extra when it's not necessary. And we'll probably never get this level of access with him again, because why would he? I mean, Jason and his team really told the story. If you don't know Jason Hare, excellent director. He did the 85 Bears 30 for 30. He did the Andre the Giant doc on HBO, just to name a few. And a 10-part series where he probably could have gone 20 parts if he really wanted to tell the stories. Just about every former Bull I would have ever wanted to hear from, except for maybe Luke Longley, just because I don't think I've ever heard him talk on camera. But yeah, just a really great job taking all of that access. And then that brings me to my second thing, the Jacoby Jalen after show, which Jacoby and Jalen Rose, Pacers player, he was part of the Fab Five documentary that Jason Hare worked on. But it was phenomenal because Jalen has a great relationship. Jacoby asked really good questions, even if he did get hung up on the poison pizza in the Utah Jazz series. But they really brought some side notes. We got to learn about the security guys, which, I mean, goodness, after you see a couple shots with them, it's unbelievable. We got to learn why this random middle-aged white guy was labeled as Michael Jordan's best friend. That was Michael Jordan's request, because when Jordan got to Chicago, after he got drafted, the person that was supposed to pick him up didn't show up. So this guy's a driver, sees Michael, sort of recognizes him, gives him a ride. They've been best friends ever since. I mean, they are really close. He was by his side through his dad's passing. Those are the type of cool stories that weren't even in the doc that you got through the podcast. So shout out to those guys. It's an awesome supplemental piece. If you're hungering for more content, there are 10 episodes, 11 actually. They did one after each episode, and then a week after it stopped, they sort of did one more overall wrap up. But it's super enjoyable, even if Jalen Rose can be a little bit obnoxious at times. It's 99% entertaining when he is. One more shout out to Jason Hare. Every time he was in an interview, every time he was on a podcast, he always gave credit to his editors and his production team. And as someone who's been in all of those roles of production, it's nice when whoever's in charge gives you that recognition, because they really are doing a lot of the work, a lot of the story arcs that were being dug out of all of this content. The editors were going out and sort of finding those threads, and then they were mapping those out. I mean, we knew we were going to follow that last season for the most part, But all the timeline stuff they did, the backstory stuff they did, a lot of that was decided by their team of editors working with Hair. So really, really cool stuff. And once again, just another tip of the hat to them. Getting into the content, I might have been extra excited about this because for me, this was my era of the NBA. I grew up with it. When the Bulls made their first run, I was like 10, 11 years old. So I loved basketball. And at the time, height didn't matter because I am not a tall person. But at that age, I was about as tall as the kids I was playing with. So I was a much better basketball player than I came to be later in life when everybody else got their growth spurt and I'm still waiting on mine. But I loved it. And even later into high school, I lived in a small town. We only got 5 channels on the rabbit ears. I'm watching the NBA on NBC. I'm watching the playoffs. There's nothing else to watch, but I love it. I even remember where I was when Jordan came back wearing the 45. Like, family had come here to Richmond, my hometown now. Shopping trip, everybody was going to the mall. Normally I'd be like, yeah, I'll go look at Foot Locker, I'll go check out what they got, maybe grab some ice cream. But I said, no, I'm staying home because Jordan's coming back and he's playing the Pacers in Indiana. And the Pacers, this was Reggie Miller's Pacers. This was the Pacers team that was knocking on the door every year in the East. I was a huge Reggie Miller fan. In fact, I grew up in a time when I didn't really have a team. Growing up outside of DC, you sort of had the Bullets/Wizards, but they were not very good. And we didn't really have the regional cable thing going then yet, where we would have gotten a ton of exposure to them. So, like I said before, I'm watching whatever's coming on the network, usually on Saturdays and Sundays. So I got a lot of East Coast games. I got a lot of the highlighted games with the highlighted players. Loved Reggie Miller, loved Penny Hardaway, loved Hakeem Olajuwon, loved Michael Jordan. But even when I wasn't rooting for MJ, because I think in the second run, I never disliked Jordan, but he was the kind of guy that I'd like to see parity, and they had their rings. And so I would have been excited to see another team play, but you didn't ever hate him the way you might have hated some other teams. Like, I'm sure Detroit fans hate Michael Jordan. Knicks fans probably also hate Michael Jordan. I totally get that. But for me as an outsider, just wanting to see something different, see Shawn Kemp do well, see Reggie Miller do well, even when Jordan beat them and when Jordan pulled off those fantastic performances, you were always in awe of his greatness. You were never openly I hate that guy. You just watch him and shake your head and be like, wow, he is incredible. He deserves to be where he is. Scottie Pippen too. I loved Scottie Pippen. We were playing in the backyard and pretending. I always pretended to be Scottie. Also, I didn't think I was good enough to pretend to be Michael. We talked about the production value, but it really is the storytelling at the end of the day. I'd seen the picture of Jordan on the floor with the hat, holding the ball up in 96 when he won his first of the second three-peat. I had no clue that at the time and until the context and the reminders of the doc that he was bawling, just openly sobbing because it was the first one without his dad. And had that embedded camera crew not been a part of the, what they were doing with the NBA, I don't know if we get that shot because they can get further than most media can. So, the NBA just always had a camera there, especially in the finals, and we got to see that side of Jordan that we hadn't seen before, I think, which is funny to think about now because the crying Jordan meme is everywhere. I used it in the thumbnail. I got chills on my arm listening to Jordan get emotional about the fight with Steve Kerr and the mistakes that he made there and how it strengthened their relationship. And Steve Kerr's story is unbelievable. I would like to sign up to do the 10-part story on him when his story's done. And Phil Jackson, my goodness. I could do a 10-parter on him as well. Sign me up. Phil's got some unbelievable stories. His background, the Native American philosophy stuff. We always heard about the Zen, the triangle offense, but Phil Jackson, he had the job in those suspenders, which I say he rocked those like a champ. He would coach the greatest player of all time without any issue. And that's something to be said. Jordan didn't always look great in the doc. He was hard on his teammates. Scotty Burrell, he really rode him hard. But it's kind of like if Phil was the CEO, Jordan was like the VP of operations. So when they're on the floor, he's running it. But there's that scene in one of those championship series where Phil just goes up to Jordan just with no remorse and says, you're not following through on your shots and you're coming up short and you've been coming up short all game. Michael's ego, nowhere to be found. Phil not worried about his ego. I mean, that management. And then on top of the fact of what Phil did after he left and he took some time off, then he goes to LA and he wins more. I mean, he's arguably the greatest coach of all time. And I want to bring a little funny to it. We've had some emotional talk, but the memes, and two in particular, which I'm going to pop up here on the screen here, but the one about the hunt for the basketball killer and the one about constantly calling 911 about Michael B. Jordan stealing his name. Those were just absolutely phenomenal, and in a time where we could still laugh quite a bit more than we've been able to lately. But yeah, I mean, all in all, this was a phenomenal story. He may not be the greatest athlete to ever live, but I think without a shadow of a doubt, he is absolutely a number one, the best team athlete we've ever seen play. LeBron, amazing. Kobe, amazing. We get a lot of insight into his relationship with Kobe. That was another tear roller. But yeah, I mean, it was an unbelievable story. It really put their dynasty into context with how great it is and what they accomplished and what they were able to do. And Jordan was behind it the whole way. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't think we'll ever see another story like that. I don't think we'll ever live through another sports story like that. And I want to leave you with one last thing. I talked about it at the beginning of the video. Times are tough right now. Ronnie Chang is an unbelievable comedian. He does stuff on The Daily Show, and he's got a great stand-up special on Netflix and a lot of other good stuff. But, you know, Jordan stepped up big. I mean, he gets critiqued in the documentary about this alleged comment, Republicans buy sneakers too. Jordan was criticized about never really getting political because of his business and his brand. With the George Floyd stuff, the Breonna Taylor stuff, the Ahmaud Arbery stuff, he stepped up big. I mean, not only did he release a statement to speak out, which meant a ton to, I think, everybody that's a basketball fan and everybody that's out there marching right now, he's put his money where his mouth is. I mean, he's going to give $100 million over the next 10 years. And I believe that is on top of another $40 million over the next 4 years committed by Nike. I may be off on the numbers there with what Nike's doing, but I know the numbers are right for Jordan. But the day he released his statement, Ronnie Chang made an amazing tweet that really encapsulated some of the conversations that came out in the Last Dance documentary. I'm going to put it up on the screen here, but I want to read it for you as well. So then he said, "Sure, you're Michael Jordan, but there's no way you could end racism." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. I'll show you." And the next day, I dropped 50 on racism. I really wish it was that easy.